All right, you guys. So, welcome back from this break. I'm sitting here with author, transformational coach, Mr. Pat Linn. Pat, how are you today?
I'm doing great. I'm glad to be here, Keon.
Well, I'm glad to have you here, man. It's fun to have people that believe in sort of the same way that I do.
Right.
Because a lot of times I talk to people about things and. That it kind of goes over their head a little bit.
Right.
But nonetheless, it's enough about me. But again, thanks for being on the
Sure.
Only Show. Definitely appreciate it.
Pleasure to be here.
Interesting enough, I met you probably it's been about a month, right?
Yeah, a little over a month, I think.
About a month ago. And when I first met you, I was like, dude, you have like this beautiful energy, this really nice energy. I was like, we've got to grab lunch or something.
Right.
And just go and sit and talk about just life.
Yeah.
And we did that, and I found out you were a transformational coach, but you do that through hypnosis.
Yeah, I use a hypnosis technique to do that.
So let's talk about that. So being a transformational coach, because a lot of people may not know
Right.
what it is, and I know there's an acronym for it. It's QHHT, is that
Yeah,
right?
quantum healing hypnosis technique.
Okay, so let's explain what QHHT is.
Well, this is a technique that was developed by Dolores Cannon over about a 45-year period.
Okay.
And she, tweaked it and simplified it and worked on it, and finally came out with this product, QHHT. And it allows people through hypnosis. It's a spiritual technique. It's not therapy, so it's not hypnotherapy, but it's a spiritually based hypnosis technique. And what we do is that we put people in touch with their higher self, what she calls the subconscious, and it's the same energy that creates the earth that we live on and all the things that we look at, everything that's living, because we're a part of all that.
Right.
We've been taught, coming up and depending upon how you were brought up, I was always taught that I was separate from God and I had to do something to get back in His presence and all this kind of thing.
Right.
You
may not get back to His presence.
You may not.
Go to hell.
Yeah. So. Yeah. But this puts people into, and it really, when you talk about transformation, it transforms them because you get rid of these beliefs that have created fear and doubt and frustration in our lives and say, you know what, you're perfect just the way you are.
Okay.
And your higher self, once you get in touch with your higher self, there's just so many different ways that you transform.
Now I've heard that term several times. Your higher self. Explain what is your higher self? Because when people, you have your physical body, right?
Right.
But when you say your higher self, a lot of people may think about they're smoking some weed or something, and they get their higher.
Yeah.
So what's your higher self?
Well, the higher self is, in the metaphysical world, the belief is that we'll call it in the nothingness, where God exists and where our spiritual selves exist. We are a part of the cosmos. We are a part of it. And really, in the metaphysical world, the belief is that only about 25 to 30% of that beingness comes into the human body. So your higher self stays in that nothingness with God and all these other spiritual beings, the ascended masters, all these different spiritual guides and so forth. So we're there with them. We're just experiencing a physical life to learn.
Okay.
We're here to learn how to really connect back with what we truly are.
Right.
And we're very powerful beings. We don't realize it, and we're taught from a child, like, if a child came to you and said, I'm gonna create something with my mind.
Yeah.
We'd say, you know what, that doesn't make any sense.
Right.
What are you talking about?
Right.
And
well, that's because we've been conditioned. A lot of people have been conditioned.
Yeah.
Within a system that says, no, you don't create with your mind. You work super hard and you do this and you do that to get what you want. But it's interesting because in the Bible, if people believe in the Bible,
Right.
but there are some things in there that actually pertain to that. Like one, it says that faith or without work is dead.
Yes.
Right?
Mhm.
So they're telling you that, or you have faith of a mustard seed.
Right.
So basically what they're saying is if you just believe, then it will happen.
Yes.
But they're just rewording it and putting it in another way.
Yeah, there's a great book by Florence Scovel Shinn.
Okay.
And it's really kind of an autobiography about her. And she basically takes the verses in the Bible and talks about them in a metaphysical sense.
Okay.
And she talks about, breaking the walls down, how they talk about different things that happen in the Bible. And she says, those walls are our thinking. That's the thinking that we have. We've got to break down this thinking of a limited universe, a limited being that we are. And we've got to accept the fact that we're a part of all this that we see around us.
Right.
We're a part of it. We could have never been separated or even existed outside of the spiritual being of what some believe is God,
Right.
because I don't believe God's a person, but I
Right.
understand the energy of the Creator.
Absolutely.
That's what I view God as.
So let's talk about you for a second. So what made you get into this, I guess, I don't want to say line of work because it's not really work.
Right.
But what made you get into this field?
Well, when I got into my middle 50s, because I'll be 62 on my next birthday, but when I got into my middle 50s, I had been through many experiences that people go through.
Okay.
I had made money, I lost money, I'd been in and out of relationships. I was at a position in my company that I really enjoyed, and then I had to step down from that position to a lower position when things were reorganized. So when I got into my middle 50s, I started having a very dim view of the future.
Okay.
And I really and I started reading books and doing meditation, and they incrementally helped me. But then one day my daughter sent me a link to a video for Dolores Cannon, and the minute I looked at that, I said, this is speaking to me some way.
So the Dolores Cannon, when you got that link,
Yeah.
that started speaking to something inside of you.
Inside of me saying, you can change your perception of what it is that you've been through and change the perception of the future. So I worked in Tampa, and sometimes I'd stay the weekend and work there 2 weeks. So I made an appointment with a practitioner in Tampa to have a QHHT session. And when I left there, I thought, that was interesting. I went to a past life and everything. But several months later, my friends were saying, there's something different about you.
Wow.
And I had completely changed my point of view. There were people I'd worked with for 30 years that I disliked, that I didn't like working with. And I just saw everybody in a loving way after that session. And once you transition to viewing things in a loving way, things start coming to you.
Right.
People that were difficult to work with, they were easy to work with. Some people would call me and say, I hear you're working on this project. What is it that I can do to help you?
Right.
The most uncooperative people that I'd ever worked with. And now everything, and so that was just a domino effect. And the money came, and then I decided to go be trained on how to do this.
Okay.
I was still working at UPS and in the corporate office, and on the flight back from Arkansas for my level 1 training for QHHT, I decided I was going to retire and do this.
Wow.
And so I walked in Monday morning and said, I'm retiring.
So you felt that strongly about this calling, which is what I think it is, that you were that confident that I'm going to walk in, I'm going to take my financial security that I have.
Right.
I'm going to just say, screw it, I'll be fine.
Right.
Whatever it is, and I'm just going to give it up.
And I left quite a bit of money on the table, because if you work through the whole year, then you get a bonus in March and so forth. And I retired in June, so I didn't get that bonus. And I when I was in training in Arkansas, this is the thing that really changed my viewpoint of it, was that I thought I was going to be there with people wearing crystals and psychics and, all these type of things.
Yeah.
And one night we all went to dinner, and there was doctors, there was attorneys there was a woman that worked for the FBI, there was all these people that were just like me, that
Right.
were in corporate jobs. We had VP from one of the large grocery store chain. And every single person without exception said, you know what, I've achieved whatever I've needed materially.
Wow.
One woman said, I've got 2 Range Rovers in my garage. She goes, but I know that this is not what I came to this earth to do.
Right.
And so I said, you know what, these people are just like me, and I'm retiring, and I'm going to do this full time, and I don't care. I didn't have any fear of it. It was like, yeah, I'm leaving money on the table and all that. People thought I was crazy retiring in June. Nobody retires in June.
Right.
And I said, no, I'm leaving.
Wow.
I'm not making another trip. I just said, I'm just, in 2 weeks, I'm going to be gone.
That is what you call a huge, what they call a leap of faith.
Yes.
It's just like, yeah, I'm just going to do it and I'll be fine.
Yeah.
So to get to that point must be so gratifying that you can just say, I'm good. Like, y'all can take the job. Thank you
Right.
for the opportunities and for the experience, but
Yeah.
I'm out. I got a bigger calling.
Well, and it gets back to what we've talked about also before, is that once you get in touch with this spiritual being of who you really are,
Right.
there's really nothing that can destroy you.
Right.
There's nothing that can hurt you any longer. There's no fear. You're freed from a lot of the beliefs that you've been raised to believe about, save your money. No, don't leave now. You got to work through the rest of the year. And Spirit kept coming to me and told me, timing's important. You've got to do it right now.
Right.
And ever since, it's been 3 years now, I have done every single thing that Spirit's told me to do. When I am doing my meditation and I understand I've done everything that Spirit has told me to do. There's not one thing. I've taken trips because they said you need to go here to experience this energy. You need to take this class. And I've done everything.
So that you don't live with regrets because you did that.
No.
Right. Okay.
Not a bit.
So who's Dolores Cannon?
Dolores Cannon, if you see her on the videos, she looks like your grandmother or, Bible study teacher or Bible, and she's just this woman. And how she started out was that her husband was interested in hypnosis, and they were I think he was in the Army or one of the armed forces. And so they used to do this for people to just relax and do the traditional things like quit smoking and so forth. And one day a doctor called her husband and told him that they had this woman in the hospital. Could he just come over and use hypnosis to relax her?
Okay.
And she went to a past life and started talking about all these things that were going on. And so her and her husband started documenting a lot of these things and figuring out how to allow other clients and so forth to do that. And she went through quite a bit of, her husband ended up getting in a car accident that almost killed him.
Wow.
The people at the Air Force Base, I think it was an Air Force base, they said that the reason that happened was because they were doing things from the devil, that was their punishment.
Wow.
And so they ended up moving to Arkansas because of this accident and to, Eureka Springs. And it just kept going from there on. Dolores started writing her books. It took her 9 years to get her first book published.
Wow.
She's written, I think, over 20 books.
Wow.
And it's about experiences that her clients had where they went back and retrieved lost knowledge and understanding of who we really were. And that's what her books are about. It's like, this is what you really are. This is how powerful you are as a human being. Wow. You've never been separated. God's never kicked you out of his presence. And so just basically counteracting a lot of things that really creates problems for us in life.
So have you ever experienced those type from other individuals saying that, man, you're doing devilish things, or have you ever been ridiculed for what you do?
Well, no, I really haven't. I've been fortunate in that way. I haven't really put myself out there a lot, and I've been fortunate to have clients that have not required me to do that, but okay. I'm getting ready to be more on YouTube and more on social media, so I would imagine that's going to come, but right. It doesn't bother me, because I know that those are just, it's out of fear. Anytime right. somebody says something to you that creates fear within you, right. it's wrong. Right. So absolutely. Whenever, somebody says, well, you're messing with the devil, I'm supposed to be afraid of that. Right. That, it's like, no, I'm not afraid of it. So,
Well, because, when I did my session, and I did a session with you, right. I've been telling everybody about it, my experience and how great it was. I did have one individual, I was talking to them. It wasn't a negative, really bad negative thing, but they were just right. like, well, my God's going to take care of me and yada, 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 but I'm going to pray for you. And I'm like, well, I don't really, you don't have to, because, I don't need prayer for this. And, right. But I think a lot of times we're in a new school. We're in a new age.
Yeah, we are.
And I think most people that would think that way yes. are old school.
They are.
Because of what they were taught. And it's like, no, you don't do this. But the younger, and you said that you're getting a lot more younger people, they yeah. understand. Yeah. They're understanding more how life works, because I think of more technology. Mm-hmm. They can research things now. Yeah. People putting all these videos out there. There's right. plenty of information on YouTube, University. Yeah. And so they're understanding now, versus an older individual, maybe, that grew up in the church. Right. Like, no, that's satanic.
Yeah. Well, everything that is not within the church is satanic. So, we're told that, our sexual desires are bad, right. Our desires to have, different things, they're all bad. We're really bad people. We're born, and I've had people that I've talked to about this said, well, we were born into sin, and we have to be redeemed so that we can get back into the presence of God. And I said, well, you should look around at this atmosphere and this planet we're living on, because I don't know why God would continue to let us reproduce right. if He was kicking us out of the exactly. So we're, and one of the things that I talk to my clients about is that we live in an intentional universe. Yes. The science that we've been taught talks more about a passive universe, that over billions and billions of years, that right. all these trillions of things that happen every day on our planet, yes, that they just happen to come together by coincidence. Right. That is the farthest thing from the truth that could ever be. This is an intentional, active planet that we live on. It's being adjusted, it's being watched over to make sure that we are the right distance from the sun, we have rain, we have life. So there's nothing passive about this life. So so what's happened with these younger people, I had a spell there where I had 6 younger people that came to me that were under 26 years old. Wow. And these people, these young kids, were so aware of their power. One woman told me, she said, I cured myself of a depression. I decided one day that I wasn't going to be depressed anymore. And that night, she said she had a dream. And a spiritual being came to her and said, throw your pills away, you're not going to be depressed anymore. She threw them away the next day, and it's been 4 years, and she's never been depressed since. But these are the kind of kids that, even though we look at them, millennials, and all these things, but they're a special group of people that are coming in. Yes. And the thing that they're doing is that they're looking at all of this structure that we have around us, marriage and working for a corporation and all that. And they're saying, I'm not doing that.
And they're breaking it down.
They're like, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to be forced to live a certain way. Yeah. And that's really the only way that this will ever change. Because the older people like me, I enjoy seeing it, but we're so ingrained with that belief that.
Well, yeah. And I've worked with kids for many years, And I always tell people, this is the generation where it starts.
Yeah.
It starts with this generation. And I said, because this is the generation that says, I don't give a damn who you are.
Right.
Be yourself.
Yeah.
Do you. You
Yeah.
know, they're the words that we used to use coming up.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm gonna certain words like for interview retarded.
Yes.
You know, we said that growing up in the 80s.
Right.
They're like, no, you can't say that.
Yeah.
So they're changing the status quo.
Yes.
Of what we consider to be cool and normal and right, and they're saying no, that's not. We're not accepting it.
Right.
And we're going to change it.
Yeah.
And they're starting to help the planet, heal the planet, speaking out.
Right.
And that's what it's going to take, because they have not been so ingrained.
Right.
With past. You know what's interesting about myself is I always tell people I'm glad that I have this Generation X mentality,
Yeah.
but I also have a millennial mentality.
Right.
So I'm a bit of both.
Yeah.
To where most of my friends are mostly Generation X mentality.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, you know, whatever. You know, it's like.
Yeah.
So even me and my mom, I'm like, I'm not gonna agree with you, right? On certain things. So.
Right.
But I love so. What type of benefits can one get from a session?
Well, the benefits that if you go to my website and look at the reviews, people begin to feel I've had 2 clients that were suicidal in the last year, and I had one client, he told me once the session was complete, he said, I have never felt this light in my life. Because of all the abuse that he had experienced as a child, he had all of this dense, condensed energy, anger, resentment, and everything. And he said, I have never felt this light in my whole life. He said, and he contacted me a couple of weeks later, and he said, I just can't believe how I was able to release all that.
Wow.
I thought I just had to live with it.
Wow.
And he had been to every psychiatrist in the area. He had been to drug rehab. He had been to everything.
Okay.
And so his statement to me was, he said, they could document all they want about my mind and my actions, and not one thing ever changed.
Wow.
I still had my same self when I walked out of rehab, when I walked out of those offices. And he said, this is the only thing where I walk out and I feel like I'm a different person.
That's amazing.
And I was suicidal before. And the way that he came to me was that his friend, kind of a distant friend of a friend, had come a year earlier for a session. And when they found out about this guy and the situation he was in, circumstances, they said, this is the only thing that's going to help you. Pat Linn's the only person that can change this for you. And I was like, well, that's a big responsibility, and I felt I was trying to prepare for this session and everything, because I just wanted to do everything perfectly. And it truly changed. And so that's what I see. I see people that, I've had people quit jobs. I've had people get out of relationships. I've had people that have been married for 30 years start looking at their mate lovingly now. Right. Where before they've gone through a period of 10 years where they just hated each other, even though they stayed in the same house. Right. People have it's a freeing feeling to know that you're a spiritual being and nothing can hurt you. Right. You're being led by your higher self that's never going to lead you into a bad situation. Right. You don't have to worry about it any longer. And so the majority of people just feel a deep sense of being freed and not having this confusion about what direction should they go. Right, absolutely. So everybody wants to know their purpose. Right. Generally, the purpose is to help other people, like we know, to love other people, but to still love yourself. Yes. Forgive yourself, love yourself. So that's the main thing. You can't love another person unless you love yourself. You can't forgive another person unless you've forgiven yourself of what you've done in your life. And
I think inadvertently it can help others, because when I was under, and I told you my grandmother gave me a message to give to my mom. I mean, she said she cried all day about it.
Yeah.
But she said it was a healing cry because it was confirmation of knowing, for her to know that, okay, I'm doing
Yes.
right. And so it helped her.
Absolutely. There's a healing. It's a mental, emotional, and physical healing I've done.
Right.
I've seen clients that have had all of those things. I've had people that have had nerve damage in a leg and they get up and they walk on that leg that they weren't able to walk on before they came. But really I think the most profound changes are probably emotional and mental, are the belief about who they are, what they can do, and now they know their purpose, and now they know I have the confidence to be able to do it. And those are the changes that I see that are so amazing and profound, is the confidence, knowing what their purpose is, knowing what they're doing here on this planet, and enjoying it. We're supposed to be here to enjoy it.
Absolutely.
We're not supposed to be here to struggle. The struggle is we're struggling against ourselves.
Right.
We're not struggling again. I mean, if we look around at all the life that exists around us, the plant's not struggling.
Right.
The plant will come through the crack in the cement,
Absolutely.
find the sun and grow, and you don't see life struggling.
Well, I heard someone say earlier on the radio, and it made so much sense. It's like, don't be so focused on growing yourself with all these, I got to make sure I get this money, I got to make sure this, that you forget to enjoy the present.
Yeah.
Because you may not even be here, in the future.
Yeah.
But you got to enjoy now, because the now is what's important.
Yeah. Enjoy the journey that you're on.
Absolutely.
And the other thing that happens after sessions is that people really begin to understand why they've been through certain things in their life.
Okay.
And they start looking back on those things with love and understanding instead of judgment about themselves. Okay. I was in a bad relationship for 10 years and I was, being abused or beaten or whatever.
Right.
And I can't believe I did that. But that situation was a situation that provoked that person to come seek an alternate viewpoint of how to resolve it, to seek the QHHT and different methods that I would consider to be alternative in today's day.
Now let's talk about your book real quick.
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna, because my brain is the
Transformed Life.
The Transformed Life.
Yeah.
My brain is everywhere. My brain is everywhere.
Don't worry.
So let's talk about the Transformed Life.
Well, what I do is really kind of just, at the very beginning, I just talk about all the things the power that you have as a human being, as a spiritual being, the power that we have to create whatever it is that we want in this life.
Okay.
And then I've written some things about just being a practitioner in the last, of this technique in the last 3 years, that it's really changed me and healed me as much as it has my clients.
Okay.
I have learned, I feel so much stronger in the belief that we're all one. Right. We're not separate, that I'm no better than the homeless person that's down. There's a reason that homeless person is experiencing that. Right. There's a reason I'm experiencing, and we're all here on the same journey. Right. We're all here, it's a part of the same subject. We're not separate. But we've been given separate bodies and separate ways of thinking as a human being.
Right.
And when you start going away from that, believing that you're one, that's where greed and wars and all these things come into play.
Right.
If the leadership of corporations in the United States, if all of them felt that we were one, we would have every single problem in this country resolved.
Absolutely.
Because it's huge, they're powerful. But you have corporations taking billions of dollars that, in subsidies or tax breaks or whatever, that could be funding a school in Detroit or West Hill. And so one of the things that I've developed this year, and it's just recently got approved as a nonprofit organization, and we're going to be calling on the powers, not the government.
Right.
We're going to go above that and say, you know what, you as the CEO of Aetna United Healthcare, you guys can figure out how to charge $40,000 for a 3-day stay in a hospital. Yes. you can figure out how to lower it, and you can figure out how to give health care to everyone.
Right.
That is your social responsibility of being a part of this society and of being a part of the human race.
Nice.
So that is what I'm looking to do, and continuing on with my hypnosis, but also trying to reach a larger audience with this nonprofit organization.
Right.
To say, we're all one.
Absolutely.
Quit thinking that you have, greed is an emotion or an action that's taken out of fear.
Right.
So whenever you're fearful, and that's the reason we go to war, is fear.
It's fear.
So all these different things that we see in our society could really be resolved easily if we got the people that have the power, the people that have the money, the people that have the knowledge to do it, we could do it easily.
And I think you definitely hit on something, because I'm definitely a firm believer in that. If you want to change things, that we're responsible for each other.
Yes.
Not the government. The
Right.
government is there. You can't depend on them.
Yeah.
To change things, you have to do it. We have to do it amongst ourselves.
Right.
So I agree with you, going to the CEOs and the presidents of these corporations.
Yeah.
In different places, like, that's your responsibility.
Right.
You're a multimillionaire off the backs of people.
Yeah.
That you have, overcharged or whatever. Now let's take that and do the moral thing.
Right.
And let's correct this, because only you can do that.
Yeah. And you'll hear the odd story about, an owner of a company or, somebody that's high up in a company getting a bonus. And it's like, I just heard a story the other day, and I can't recall the exact details of who this person was, but they were going to receive this big bonus as the, head of a department or whatever. And he said, you know what? Don't give it to me. Give it to my people. I do not need it. And so when you start having people exist in the world like that, there's corporations that do treat their people well. They do care about those employees. And so when we talk about this nonprofit, we're not going to go in and fight.
Right, exactly.
We have to go in and provide an example of how it's really being done, and get those people to want to cooperate to resolve these problems that exist within our society. And we can't do it through fighting and, accusing them of doing certain things. We just need to ask for their help. Help us do this in the best way that we possibly can.
Absolutely.
Because you have the knowledge, you have the power, you have the experience. Please help these people. We have people in our country, 62% of bankruptcies in this country are due to health care.
Wow.
Now, can you imagine having to sell your house because your wife got sick or your husband? And those are the kind of things that when you look at a CEO of a healthcare company or whatever company it is within the healthcare industry, it's like, how do you drive to work every morning?
Right.
Knowing that somebody just lost their house, their family member's sick, they've used all their savings, they've used all their money, they're in bankruptcy court, 62% of them. How do you drive to work what do you think about when you go to work every day?
Well, I think they push it aside, because it's like, I was talking to an attorney and I asked him the same question.
Mm-hmm.
He was a defense attorney. And I said, how do you go in defending someone that is absolutely wrong?
Yeah.
And they did this.
Right.
He said, and how does it not affect you? He said, well, it gets to a point where it's just my job.
Yeah.
And I don't think about all that other stuff.
Yeah.
So I think it's the same for the corporations. This is my job.
Yeah.
This is what I'm here to do. And I don't think about that other. I remember there was an episode of, I think it was Undercover Boss.
Yeah.
And the CEO went out, and he lived in this apartment or whatever. So while he was out, he volunteered helping homeless and this and that. Well, he came back and they had this great big old house. He sat his family down. He had a wife and 2 kids.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "Look, this is my experience. We're selling the house. We don't need all of this. We're going to downsize.
Yeah.
We don't need all these cars. We're going to sell some.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to start volunteering and giving back, because we have enough. And it opens his mind, and his eyes to say, wow, we can do something. We have an abundance already. Like the coach. It was the coach we were talking about. who said he was going to get he already makes $4 million a year,
right,
and he was going to get another a couple million. He's like, no,
right.
give that to my staff.
Yeah,
they need it.
Yeah,
that's what you're talking about when you have that.
It's about a oneness and about a responsibility to the other people and
Absolutely.
human beings on this planet. And it's not just about the United States, it's about the world. And, you know, there's defense contractors that built the bombs that killed
right.
almost 1 million people in Iraq.
Right.
There's people that drove to work every day that were creating the things that killed those people.
Yep.
Now, it gets back to what you just said, that, you know, people say, well, I'm helping defend this country.
Right.
I'm helping to protect the country and keep it safe.
Rationalized.
So it gets rationalized in a lot of ways, even in a recent documentary about the Vietnam War. Right. Everybody knew that that was wrong. Everybody knew that, but every single person, presidents, and that went on for, what was it, over 20 years, I think. And every single person was like, well, that's my job.
Right.
My job is to just, you know, make sure that we're fighting communism.
Wow.
And they finally figured out that they couldn't beat the Vietnamese people.
Right.
After all these years, and I think it's almost 60,000 Americans died in that war.
Wow.
Then we finally decided, well, you know, we're never going to be able to beat them. They're too determined.
Right.
And so those are the kind of things where, yeah, if you want to sit back and say, yeah, that's just my job, that's
right.
Fine. Just, you basically just relinquished all your responsibility to anyone.
Absolutely.
To anyone. So you have corporations that do certain things, and I'm sure their CEOs do drive to their office and say, you know what, I'm just doing what I'm supposed to do.
Right.
You know, I'm going to pay all these people minimum wage, and I'm going to not take care of their health care because that's what makes our company profitable.
Right.
And the last thing that we should be thinking about in this world is profit. We should be thinking about the individuals, the emotions of people. And we started dehumanizing people years and years ago. I remember human resources used to be called personnel.
Right, yes.
So it was a personal thing, you know,
yes.
Their personnel is going to help you. Now it's human resources. So we look at a human being as a resource, like a truck or a building.
Right.
We can get rid of that resource whenever we feel like it.
Absolutely.
There's no family behind that person. There's no emotions behind that person. We've gotten away from the personal responsibility that we have to people. And I asked an Uber driver one day, I said, what do you think the biggest problem that we have in this country? And I said, don't talk about the obvious one.
Right, yeah.
And this was just a few months ago. And he said, we've lost our heart.
Right.
We've lost our heart in this country.
Yeah.
And it's true.
It's because everything has become monetized. And
yeah.
when you make everything about money,
right.
Well, that becomes the love, is the money. So you don't care about these, you don't care about life, you don't care
right.
about humanity. It's about, no, I need this,
yeah.
and I want more of it. It's like you see a guy that has billions, and he keeps making, I'm like, how much do you need?
Right.
How much money do you need? You can literally build a city for the homeless with that money you have.
Yes. Yeah.
It's like, what do you need?
Every single homeless person could have a house.
Absolutely.
They could have enough food to eat. They could have,
absolutely,
with those billions of dollars. But this is like a game. You know, it's
right.
like, it's a game, but it's also a game that affects humanity. It affects people.
Absolutely.
And that's where people have gotten away from feeling that. They don't
right.
feel responsible for it. They think, you know, well, if you don't like working at my company, go work somewhere else. You can just, but that's not the point. The point is that you have the power to change the world positively and make it a better place, or you can have greed and you can just keep accumulating.
Right.
And what ends up happening down the road is that then you end up with a group of society that is poor. They start rebelling and start trying to, you know, make things right.
Right.
And then the people that are wealthy and in control, they start looking at these people as criminals.
They look at them crazy.
They're like, they're criminals. Yeah. These people are out in the street, you know, rioting or doing whatever. But those people have created that.
Absolutely.
The only way that will not have that happen in our country and in the world is if these people in power become enlightened and say, you know what, we're all here together. We're not going to criminalize these people because they don't have anything, because we've taken everything away from them that we can.
Right.
We're going to equalize. We're going to try to equalize what people own and you know, that's a negative term. Even in our government, the word socialism is like a dirty word in our government.
Yes.
And it's like, there's nothing wrong with it. I've lived in Europe. I've seen how socialism works.
Right.
And it's a lot different than living here. Yeah, the government's here for the people, but the organization is, we have organizations like ACLU, NAACP, and so forth, and they're fighting the current system.
Right.
The difference in this organization that I'm developing is, let's forget about what the government tells you to do.
Right.
Let's forget about fighting the laws. What are we doing to keep people out of prison?
Right.
What are we doing to keep people with their families? Because when you put somebody in prison, you affect their whole family.
Absolutely.
The grandmother may have mortgaged the house to pay for an attorney. Everything, you've destroyed a generation of people.
Entire generation.
And so those are the things that we want to bring awareness to, so that we can live in a society where we do have peacefulness and we do have love amongst the people that live here.
So how long is a general session for those that may be interested?
A general session will last about 4 hours, and I only book one a day because I've had sessions go longer than that, actually. But when the client arrives, just like we did with you, we'll get here and talk for an hour and a half or so about your life.
Right.
And that can be very therapeutic for people, because it's very rare that you get to sit down and talk about your whole life to anyone.
Well, I'll be honest, I cried about things I haven't cried about in a long time.
Yeah, you remember, people remember things, and they're like, you know, so we'll talk, and people come to realizations even in that discussion. I had a woman tell me that she's been a failure at everything in her life. And I said, wait a minute, I had a pad of paper I was writing. I said, look at all the things that you've done. You've been a success at every single thing that's listed on this piece of paper. And she started crying. But in her mind,
she was a failure.
She had been a failure at everything she did in her life. So we'll have a discussion about your life and what you're trying to achieve and what you're trying to work on. And then we'll go into the hypnosis part of it. And that's in 2 parts. We'll go to, you know, your past life, or some people go to the in-between life where they're not in a physical body. And then we'll work with your subconscious, and that's where we make the gains, because we work with the subconscious to heal the emotional, mental, and physical wounds that you've got from life, so that you can walk out of your session and say, I'm like a brand new car. I've got these things resolved, and now I'm looking forward to the future. I'm looking forward to my new life. And I experienced it myself. It was almost like I was stepping into another body.
Wow.
I was stepping into another life where things were great, money wasn't, you know, and all these different things that we want, but you have to understand what's blocking you from getting those things.
So how can if they want more information, or if they want to book a session, then how do they do that?
You can go to my website, patlinn.com. So it's Linn, patlinn.com. And I just redid a lot of the website, explaining it in a little bit more detail about what happens in a session, how to prepare for the session. And I have my contact information there for my phone and also email. And just email me and or call me, and we can discuss what it is if you have more questions that aren't answered on the website.
And the Transform Life, where can they get that?
That's still in the works. I'm working with editors right now to get that to get that put into place,
Okay.
and it'll probably be the first part of next year.
Okay.
With all the things I've got going on. So.
And that'll more than likely be on your website as well, yes?
That'll be on the website, and it'll be on. It will be on Amazon, and people can go there to buy it. So.
Okay. And do you have social media?
I have Facebook, but I don't have a social media on Instagram.
You're one of the rare ones.
Yeah, I'm one of the. But I've kind of been stubborn about it because I'm not really a social media person, but. Right. In this business, the people that are successful at it, and we have to get the message out there, it's a necessary channel to go down, even though I don't really enjoy it.
You know what, I'll be honest, I'm sort of the same way. Like, I have a radio show, obviously, and I have a web series, and the only reason that I'm on social media is to promote both of those. Yeah. And to do research when I have to do research for the radio show. Right. But I'm like, if I didn't have to be on there, I wouldn't. Yeah. Because I'm like, I don't want to see that. I don't want that creeping into my brain. That's negative. I don't want to see that. Yes. And there's so much vitriol, going on with social media. Yeah. So I get it.
It's like, it's an illusionary life. You see somebody's Instagram, life timeline or whatever, and some of them I know, and I'm like, you don't live that kind of life. Right, exactly. But it's like, I guess it's enjoyment. It's another thing that people like. Yeah. They can make up whatever they want. But yeah, I'll in the next couple of months, and I've actually hired some people to help me with that. My daughter's going to help me to get on Instagram and to make those developed in a more mature stage than they are now. Because I'm a pretty private person, so I'm not, and at my age, we're not used to putting our whole life out on Instagram.
Now, there are some people, like my mom will put the whole world up there. I'm like, lady, just, hey. Yeah. Hey. Right. You don't need to know that you just changed the diaper, okay? That doesn't need to be known. Yeah. So again, the website is Pat Linn, PATLINN.com. And you can book sessions there. If you have more information, everything's there.
Get more information about it. I've got a link to Dolores Cannon's website, so they can go.
Is she still living?
No, she died about two years ago. Okay. She died, and now her daughter Julia is running they have a publishing company, and then they do the training. And there's training classes going on all around the world. Okay. Like 2 a month, and in Asia and Europe and all over the place. I mean, it's just amazing how this lady that just was trying to document this and wrote all these books is just expanded into this huge business, and it's a process that is, I believe, changing the world.
That's amazing.
It's changing the world in a positive way.
Well, we're gonna have to do another part 2, man, because there's still a lot of stuff to talk about. Right. And I'm sure people will be curious about. But door is always open, man, and thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Definitely appreciate it.
Very welcome.
Again, ladies and gentlemen, that is Pat Linn. The website is patlinn, PATLINN.com. For more information, definitely go there.